saints revered for their healing powers, to whom the sick would pray for help. They were probably made around 1490 for the hospital complex at Abbeville in northern France. Like all hospitals at this time, it was a religious foundation, and the statues probably would have stood in niches around the chapel door. People believed that sickness was as much a spiritual condition as a physical one, so the intercession of healing saints like these must have seemed doubly helpful. Dr. Joneith Spicer is curator of Renaissance and Baroque art.
Illness was seen as a consequence of evil. One of the saints is standing over a woman who is kneeling on the ground with chains. This is a lunatic, a crazy woman, and in order to cure her, it was considered necessary to exorcise the devil, the evil within her. And with his right hand, he is calling forth the devil out of her, and that devil is struggling to stay in her, but he's rising up, it seems almost out of her head. These statues would all have been polychromed, in other words, painted. All of them are slightly moving. And what does this do? It gives them life, and therefore credibility.
What were hospitals like then, and who used them? Dr. Michael Camille of the University of Chicago.
If you were at all wealthy, if you were a member of the court or a king or a bishop, you would have your own personal physician who would come to you and you would be treated by him at home. The very poorest would go to the local barber surgeon who might do drastic things, bleeding and all sorts of painful things, but it was the people, I suppose, in between who went to the hospital. I mean, hospitals were terrifying places because they had no notion of any kind of infection as a problem. Everyone was sleeping in the same beds, all mingling their germs together, so you're more likely to die.
In such a place, the spiritual help offered by these statues must have seemed consoling and essential.
These lively statues were carved from stone during the Middle Ages, or medieval times, in Europe. They're about 500 years old. You can still see traces of the original paint colors. The sculptor poses them so the figures seem to be moving, each in a different way. They seem almost alive. But look, each large man has a miniature person in front of him. In medieval art, people who are more important are shown bigger. The large men are doctor saints, holy men who had lived in earlier times, who were famous for their healing powers. In the Middle Ages, people thought that disease could be caused by evil. Find the small woman bound in chains. She's supposed to be insane, someone who is possessed by the devil. It seems horrible to us today, but until recent times, people with mental illnesses were often chained up. Do you see the tiny devil on her shoulder? The saint cures her by forcing the devil out. Now find the small man holding his painfully bloated stomach. He looks up with pleading eyes for the saint to help him. 500 years ago, there were no refrigerators, and spoiled food often made people very sick. These statues were made to stand outside a medieval hospital, so even before entering, people might feel better just seeing these caring holy men with their miraculous powers.